We are Geekcentric, and you can be too. Love ya. Get home safe, guys. Peace. Welcome, geeks, to the most loyal, honest, and true podcast on the airwaves. My name is Kevin, and in today's episode, we discuss the tragic news of the passing of a true hero both on and off the screen. And then we give our review for Disney's latest foray into the world of live-action remakes. But first, if you're joining us for the first time, this is a weekly show covering the world of film, television, gaming, toys, and collectibles, and all things geek-centric. Joining me on the show, we have J-Law, the matchmaker of all things collectible. And to his left, my right, we have Nate, the Mushu of the Twitch world.
Oh,
Gentlemen,
Mushu.
How are you guys doing?
Good, yeah. Mushu's a good name for him.
Yo, I appreciate that. I mean, I feel like more like Mushu. You know, quarantine hasn't been too good to me, but yeah, totally.
Obviously, it's been a few weeks, so I thought I'd get right to the heart of the matter here, as difficult as it is. And I thought we'd maybe spend just a few minutes talking about the difficult news of the passing of Chadwick Boseman. I actually find it amazing that Mr. Boseman didn't really become a household name until he portrayed the legendary Jackie Robinson in 2013's 42.
Yeah.
In just the next 7 years, he would go on to capture the hearts and minds of filmgoers everywhere, playing real-world icons such as James Brown and Thurgood Marshall, as well as making Marvel's Black Panther a beloved character the world over. Gentlemen, what are some of your initial thoughts on not just the unexpected news of his passing, but of the legacy he left behind in such a short time?
I was 100% shocked. I think everyone was, obviously. And, you know, he was clearly private about the matter and still decided to invest so much energy and time. He did not let this disease slow him down. He saw the opportunity to do what he loves to do and tell the stories that he wants for, as you've, said, icons of the past, and, really represent, Black culture in a very positive way, like help impact that on the screen. Jackie Robinson, James Brown, and then going into doing something like Black Panther. These are all movies of iconic figures that are, have impacted history in one way or the other, and I think it's incredible that that's how he decided to define his legacy, with knowing that he had this ailment and this thing that could kill him, and he stayed strong. He stayed strong by the sounds of it, from all the news that's come out since his passing of how positive he was, even leading into something like Black Panther 2, really thinking he was going to overcome it and really step outside of it. So it's a shock. It's unfortunate, but he has definitely left a mark in the industry as an icon.
And of just such cultural significance in so many of the roles he played.
Absolutely.
Well, when the news came in, I'm sitting there just browsing through YouTube, and I literally just see a post on Facebook, and you know how we get those Onion news articles and some of those like fake news, like sort of joking news, and obviously, even if it was there, it's not a joke, but to see it, I didn't believe it immediately, right? And like anything on the internet, you have to, take a second glance, and then it just kept seeing more and more posts about it, and it turned out, it's sort of sinking in that it was real, and I literally just messaged Justin and just started freaking out, and I think a big part of it was just, like shock and awe and just like unbelievable that 43, that this guy was just taken away from us. And, but to Justin's point, like the legacy that he left behind, I mean, you talk about all these different movies, 42 with Jackie Robinson, and even like 21 Bridges, Da 5 Bloods, which was a movie that I mentioned on the podcast. He was fantastic in that. And so, to have him be taken away, but I think the coolest thing that you can say about this guy, and Justin, I mean, you kind of mentioned it, but the fact that, yes, this was so shocking because he did keep it so private, but even how shocking this is, I don't think he's going to be, like, it's amazing that he's not going to be remembered for the shocking death that he, you know, the fact that it was so shocking when he was taken away from us. He's going to be remembered for the legacy of films and content and movies that he left behind, right? And I think that's something that, you know, it really speaks to the kind of person that he was, that he did not let his illness define him. He didn't let, you know, cancer define him. Yeah. He let his work speak. And it was, dude, I'm going to miss him. Seriously.
It's certainly sent sort of shockwaves through the industry and through, you know, just people in general. And I think Justin touched on it really well, that even if his death is brought up in the future, it'll be because of the strength that he showed in the face of having such a devastating disease.
100%.
And that he is obviously a man of such great strength that he was the perfect person to play some of these strong historic characters over time. You know, he really was just an incredible sounding man. And you see the outpouring of love and support and just nothing but positive stories from people around the industry. You know, I don't think there's a person with a negative thing to say about the man. You know, and you've got everyone from Sam Jackson to John David Washington, and they're either talking about how blessed they felt to have worked with him or how much they were looking forward to maybe one day working on a project with him. I think just everybody he touched was influenced in a positive way, and so what a strong legacy. And I mean, this is a guy that, you know, he had Oscar future winner written all over him, you know, so it really is a shame, but I think we will forever remember him as somebody who brought, you know, just such an amazing presence to the screen.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think this is just another big F you and a huge middle finger to cancer. It's a terrible thing. And Mr. Bozeman, rest in power, and we will miss you for sure. And it's kind of a hard diversion to make, but maybe we'll try and bring a little positivity and shift gears just a bit and talk about maybe some of the things we've been watching over the last few weeks. Justin, why don't you jump into what you first? What you been up to?
Finally started The Boys.
Yes.
I actually am all caught up now to season 2, episode 4. I enjoy this far more than I enjoyed Umbrella Academy, which I stopped halfway through season 1. I haven't gone back to finish it.
I only got through the first episode of that one and shifted focus pretty quickly. But
and The Boys is great. Like, it does have a very subtle Watchmen quality. I like the idea of marketing heroes and just this idea of how what they symbolize in that world. And the fact that it's shot in Toronto, and it's like very apparent that it's shot in Toronto.
Oh, it's so awesome, eh? You see, Roy Thompson Hall is the base for the headquarters.
It's great. Like, Carl Urban is fantastic. The Boys generally, you know, Mother's Milk is awesome. He's got such a badass name, but then like he's very caring. I love Frenchie, right? And Huey's great, right? And there's some bizarre things that happen in that. In this show, it's pretty interesting. Yeah, like it's getting very, 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 very intriguing. And that's the thing I think is to say about the show is that each episode leaves you with that hanging feeling that you gotta watch the next one. So it's been very immersive. I've enjoyed it
for sure. I was actually going to talk about this myself. It's okay. I have something else. Like, as I said, I have a backup just in case. But Sarah and I did the big binge on it as well. I got to say, for me, the standout performance so far has been Anthony Starr as Homelander. He is just unbelievable. You can see how he's tricking everybody with the, you know, his charm and everything like that, but he is also absolutely terrifying.
Oh, he is. Yes. Yeah, everyone's scared of him too. And the thing that's interesting about his character is that it's like no one wants to talk bad about him or say anything bad about him because they're scared of him, but they know. Like, people know or get the sense that he's a bad person, right? Like, that I've worked in proximity with him. Like, the whole thing on the plane with Queen Maeve.
Oh, my goodness.
Like,
just terrible. A very intense moment, but it really does show his sensibility of what's important to him. So, and especially in the last episode. The last episode was really weird. Episode 4 of season 2. Did you check it out, Kev?
We did watch it. I'm trying to remember.
The cabin at the end where he's himself. I guess
Oh,
this is
right.
intense
Well,
spoilers.
yes.
Yeah.
No, but no. You can say no more. Speaking
Oh my
of
God.
mother's
Pretty
milk.
intense. And it's strange, right? Like it's really weird how it just has an eeriness to it, right? Like it just has like this sort of just bizarre nature of like just weird ideology and like just breaking him down. Like, you're right, Anthony Starr is pretty outstanding. Homelander is pretty outstanding. I love Billy Butcher though. Like, I think he's just great.
Oh yeah.
Oh, he's diabolical.
Diabolical. Yeah.
Diabolical.
when they fly that boat, oh my god, he just comes out diabolical. It's so good.
I gotta say though, like Homelander almost concerns me because it's obvious he's the big bad, right? And it's almost like I
gotta
find
say,
this season
yeah.
is stalling.
Well,
I found
let me
this
just
season really slow so far. That's my one.
I will say I do really think that they're building up to, and you know, this isn't really spoilers, but I think Aya Cash is doing a phenomenal job as Stormfront, and I think with some of the more recent revelations that we've seen in episode 4, I really think that we're seeing someone who is worse than Homelander. And I do think that it's going to turn into this sort of Homelander versus Stormfront situation. I don't think they're gonna remain friends.
I agree, but I think that the prerogative is to force Homelander to be the supervillain that he's toting about, right? Like,
really?
I think she realizes in that moment how fragile Homelander's ego is, and how she actually is in control now. And I think we're going to see his trajectory of going solo and actually becoming a super villain, or perceived as a super villain, and really pushing this like I'm a god mentality.
Right. I don't need any of you. I don't need any of you. I'm powerful enough.
I think that was a big part of his revelation of him, you know, choking himself out like weird.
Right.
So
I do think like with the whole Stormfront situation, like I just feel like it's such an interesting way that they're bringing in the whole aspect of strong female, female empowerment and showing strong, confident women in that world. Well, at the same time, you know, she's a straight up racist bigot woman. So it's really interesting to see that sort of those two aspects sort of coming together, and I really do think that it's going to pave the way for Maeve, I think, to come out as the true, female empowerment superhero in this specific story. Because I think she's actually going to be, I think she's actually going to play a bigger role in this season than she did in season 1.
Yeah, I think Black Noir is going to be a bigger deal this season. Apparently, my brother-in-law is a big fan of the comics, and he likes the show as well. And he said Black Noir has probably one of the best backstories.
Really? Wow.
So I'm like, okay, now that
he's
I've
been
kind of
such a background character so far.
Oh well, he's a pretty badass, but like, you know, they leveraged him properly in the first one. Like I thought it was really weird the direction they were going with the Deep, and now I understand that, you know, the proclamation of what the church that he's associating with, they're clinging to him as being like the superhero of the god, you know, like they're really like
right. It kind of gives me vibes of
context.
Yeah, it's Scientology sort of vibes, right?
Exactly, like God, you know, yeah. So, and I like that dichotomy of what's going on, like this idea that it's being sold that God has empowered these people to be heroes, yet, you know, now it's obviously clear that it wasn't the case, but there's still people out there that are going to believe that, right? Like that are still going to believe, no, God specifically did that.
100%.
Hence why the Deep is now a part of this like church organization, right? Like it's very bizarre. So they're doing something very interesting with their characters by giving them like very like core little storylines that kind of like, it's going to be interesting to see where the Deep ends, but also where Black Noir. That's a good one, eh? Yeah, the Deep end. Right. And on that note, Nate, what have you been
to? Yeah, definitely been enjoying The Boys season 2. Every Friday. I'm so stoked for it. I also have been still continuing watching Lovecraft Country, which is getting better episode by episode, and then also Raised by Wolves, which is super cool on HBO as well. And it's if you like sci-fi, it is very sci-fi. So definitely check that out. But the one I wanted to highlight that I think is honestly a huge standout that I feel is going overlooked because it's on Apple TV Plus, and I don't feel too many people have Apple TV Plus, is Ted Lasso. This is a show starring Jason Sudeikis, where he basically plays a U.S. American football coach who actually manages to get hired into the a Premier League football soccer like UK team, knowing nothing about the sport, but being one of the most kindest and generous human beings that you've ever seen. Like, I'm talking like insanely kind, and he's surrounded by all these British people that, for the most part, just want to tear him down or just super negative. And one by one, he slowly starts turning them around. And it's so cool because you see this guy that, well, he doesn't have any knowledge of how soccer works in the UK. He does know how to be a phenomenal football coach. Not because of his knowledge of the sport, but because of just how phenomenal he is at bringing these people together and helping them with what they're going through. So we're currently on episode 7 right now. Episode 8 comes out on Friday, and we're starting to see some of the cracks in his. He's definitely got some issues himself that we're starting to see, which is good to know that he's not just a perfect human being. But dudes, I'm telling you, if you want to cry and laugh in 45 minutes,
spend a night with Nate.
Dude, no, yeah, you need to watch Ted Lasso because Jason Sudeikis kills it. And honestly, it's my favorite show on Apple TV Plus.
I got to say, it sounds kind of like a show that Kevin might enjoy, minus the laughing and crying, maybe more the laughing, but
but what I was gonna say, like, this is the one show on Apple TV that I wish was anywhere else. Just the format with Apple TV just doesn't work for how I watch TV. It's just And this is the one, like, if I'm going to watch something feel good, it's going to be in a sports movie. I'm a sucker for a feel good sports movie, and so this
Mighty
sounds
Ducks.
like this would be right up my alley in terms of
dude.
When schmaltz is acceptable. It's when there's sports involved as well, so I can butch up a little. After potentially tearing up. So,
and don't get me wrong, like they do like they've got dirty mouths, like it's UK humor of some of the words that they say. So like it's not for everyone, it's not for. But I'm watching it with my parents, and they're like you better not watch episode 8 without us. Like they're
Nice.
in it, right? My dad's making predictions as to who Ted is gonna like end up with, and like all this stuff, and I'm just like. So it's honestly a phenomenal feel-good sports show, and I don't even really like sports, so check it out. Yeah, Kevin, what ya been watching?
Well, so again, as all of us have, definitely went through The Boys and caught up to that, and I'm disappointed that I have to wait a week for every episode, but also love when we do have a weekly show to look forward to. So that's nice, but. This one was a surprise for me. I was never a big fan of the movies that this show is based off of. I've seen maybe the first one once. And so the show itself never really called out to me, but it keeps ending up in like top 10 lists on Netflix. Anybody who's watched it says it's a real fun show to watch. So I checked it out and ended up plowing through the first season in a bit. And of course I'm talking about Cobra Kai, based on the 80s classic Karate Kid. And you know what, man? For all the ways this thing could have gone horribly wrong, it's a nice little show. It was, I like the redemption that they've given the villain from the original movie. His story is really, fascinating to watch. Again, this is not going to be up for awards. This is not going to win acting accolades. Let's not kid ourselves here. But if you're at all a fan of the Karate Kid movies, this must just be a dream come true. Like, I would love to see a show starring Emilio Estevez coaching a new team of hockey players 25 years after the Mighty Ducks. And this feels like
potentially going to happen.
Yes, I know. I've heard the rumors. And so, like, now that I've seen this, I'm like, yes, let's go.
Wow.
Again, like, I know my roommate Justin loved the Karate Kid movies. He's older than all of us, and so they were more his wheelhouse, but he loved the first season, so I finally checked it out, and
Did you watch Karate Kid, though? Have you watched it?
I've seen the first one once, but I've never seen 2 or 3, And I understand that some of the characters are in a lot of those movies, and so it must be really cool for anybody who's a fan of the trilogy with Ralph Macchio and whatnot. So, yeah.
Dude, I got to check that out. I've heard so many good things, Kevin, about
Yeah, it's been getting good
Cobra
reviews
Kai.
on Netflix.
Yeah, I was like, come on, how good could it be? And it's like, oh, you know what? It's not too bad at all.
Nice.
So definitely something to check out if it sounds at all like it's your cup of tea. But
Sort of another feel-good. Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And you know, karate is a sport, I guess. It's
Yeah.
know,
How many tears would you give it there, Kev? No. Just for Nate to understand.
Okay, it's a 2 out of 10 in terms of tears, probably.
Oh, okay.
But
We got to think of a rating system for you though for tears. Like, is it boxes of tissues? How many times you reach for the tissues? You know what I mean?
But before we get too crazy here, there was, in addition to The Boys, there was one more thing that all of us watched over the last little while.
Yes.
And of course, that is the topic of our show. So why don't we jump right in? All right, well, it is no secret that Mulan has been out for just over 10 days now, and the controversy that surrounded the film prior to its move from a theatrical release to a Disney Plus premiere doesn't appear to be going anywhere. From the star of the film, Liu Yifei, publicly supporting Hong Kong police, to Disney attaching a $30 price tag on the stream of the movie on top of the cost of their streaming service Disney Plus, plus the potential for hundreds of millions of dollars lost to box office revenues in the wake of the COVID-19 pandemic, this has not been an easy film for Disney to promote. Early financial numbers don't seem to be that positive. While the film sparked a 60% increase in Disney Plus subscriptions on the day of its release, that still falls well below the mark set a month earlier by the release of Hamilton on the streaming service, which saw subscription numbers spike in the high 70s. In addition, the film brought in $35 million domestically over its first weekend, approximately half that of Tenet, which saw a more traditional theatrical release. And finally, the film was seen as a flop at the Chinese box office, likely where Disney was hoping to make its biggest financial splash. So the experiment does not seem to have gone over as well as I'm sure Disney would have hoped. In addition, the reviews are in and are incredibly mixed. On IMDb, the film got a 5.4 fan score and a 67 Metacritic score, while on Flixster, the film received a 51% audience score and a 75% Rotten Tomatoes score.
Whoa.
So the critics certainly seem to have liked it a little bit more than fans.
Jeez.
But I mean, people are here to hear what we thought about it. So guys, why don't we give our initial thoughts on the film itself? Does any of the controversy surrounding the release of the film, did it affect your viewing experience at all? What are your thoughts on how it performed? Everything like that. Let's sort of just jump in with initial thoughts, and then we can sort of break down some ideas as we go along.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely left a sour taste in my mouth after. I mean, I'd only heard about a lot of the news afterwards. In fact, I actually really learned about it after watching the movie twice. So does it affect the quality of the movie? No. There's other things that affect to your point, Kevin. There's other things that affect the quality of the movie that we'll get into. But no, this specifically does not, but it's just a huge it's just a big, if anything, it's a big message just to Disney, just to say, tighten things up. I know you're a massive, giant corporation, giant company, whatever. Tighten things up, because it's just not right. That's all. And say sorry. That's it. And then we'll continue, trying to do the best we can. But yeah, no, as far as my overall impressions of the movie, if we're going to dive into that at this point, I enjoyed it. I think it's the most competent of the Disney live action films, that from what of all the ones I've seen. I haven't seen Dumbo, but I'm pretty sure this is better than Dumbo. But yeah, no, I think it's definitely a good movie. But we'll get into some of the things that maybe I didn't enjoy as much, and some of the things I think could have been a little bit better. What about yourself, Justin?
Yeah, like I don't know. I think the best way for me to really kind of relate it is just kind of start with my rating. So I'm sorry if I'm going to jump ahead.
No, go for it.
I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10. I think that there's parts of this film that are really, really good and that work. There's other parts of it that just feel very washed down or just sort of simplified. Things that kind of were standout moments in the original that didn't really make their way into at least one moment, like when her putting on the armor and like her making that decision to take her father's place. Like in the animated movie, at least that was a little bit more impactful. Here it was just a simple transition cut.
Yeah.
And I think that's very telling to this story of Mulan. To overlook that, I don't know if that was smart. And, very like, the female characters were fairly well represented to a certain degree. I think the secondary female character, the villain, the witch, was very underwhelming for someone that kind of seemed very relevant to Mulan's development. Served a very little purpose. I just think that there was things that again worked from a cultural standpoint. There's things I really didn't like from the cultural standpoint as well, in the sense that they didn't give any Chinese language. It was all just Western language. There was just nothing, like not even just a little bit of it. I get it. Well, like it doesn't need to be a super, you don't want a Disney movie to be overly subtitled, but even just a little bit.
Sure.
Like even just like banter between Mulan and her father, or like some of the soldiers, or, just anything really. It just felt very still, very distilled down as a very westernized look of East Asian culture.
So we did hear a little bit. There was a very small amount of Mandarin or Cantonese. I'm not sure what would have been used at the time, but there absolutely was in the background right at the beginning of the film. But literally after that, in every other scene in the background, because I paid attention to it the second time, it is all English speaking. And to that point, like I think for a Disney movie, right? Because it is, at the end of the day, we are still making a movie for kids, right?
It is.
Kids, at least in America, don't want to read subtitles as much. So I'm assuming that was part of Disney's kind of thought process there. But
of course.
But at the same time, like, I don't know, like, could they have done this movie in Chinese with English subtitles and then or English dub? English dub. Could they have done an English? I don't know, man. Like I could see it being fine. I don't know.
I don't think so. I think also like the weird process of translating or doing dubs is the way things are performed, the way things are said, right? They're not necessarily in the same sort of vein as in English, right? But, you're right. I actually agree with you. I think that was probably one of the biggest reasons as to why we didn't see more Cantonese or Mandarin featured in the film. It also goes hand in hand with the action. This was I felt B-graded action for a kids movie. Like it was soft. It wasn't very intense. They tried to make it look more intense than it actually was.
But again, let's think target
audience,
movie. Right?
Yeah, it's a kids movie.
That's what Angie said. Blood and you weren't going to get too much violence. And I thought, without too much like gore or violence, I thought the action was pretty cool looking. I just thought there were moments where it was over the top and fun and grandiose, so
yeah.
I mean, I thought that was one of the stronger parts, if anything, was kind of the action. Given that you're not going to get too much in the way of what it almost sounds like you were hoping for from a Disney movie for kids, right?
Yeah, I think instinctually, like in my mind, I was hoping that this would and at points it did kind of look and feel like a Mulan with Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon sort of
yes,
action, right? Because it does follow the same sort of mythology of fighting with chi
and the physics,
energy,
right?
And power.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
So, and they did implement that sort of style. Like they adopted from a very traditional style of Chinese filmmaking and embed that into the action sequences, which I appreciate. But I also think, like I was saying, I just think you're right. It was definitely tailored to the kid target audience. So I think the action just felt a little bit flat in certain areas, for me at least. So
I think that's absolutely fair. I think there were things they did well within the movie. I think there were things where they kind of dropped the ball a little. It was almost like there was this weird balance between this beautifully filmed movie with cinematography and then other times it was just this made-for-TV aesthetics that
Yes.
was like really cheap looking.
Yes, and that was like, and that's what I was saying. I think in a quick conversation with Nate is that it's like they used all the great scenic shots in the trailer, and then that was all that was in the movie, and then everything else was just surrounded by these really weird, like green screened, shot in different sort of frame rates. Like that was the other thing too. They shot things faster and slower, and then they took the footage and said, okay, we're going to take what was shot faster and make it and slow it down, and we're going to take what was shot slowed down and speed it up. It just didn't feel like it had a very consistent sort of frame or motion to it. It was just constantly changing.
And that almost serves to take you out of it a little, right?
Absolutely. It drew more relevance to it, and the quick cuts between some of the action scenes were just very jarring.
Going into the movie, like immediately I see all this beautiful color, right? You see the townsfolk and everyone's wearing these different, there's pops of yellow and pink and blue and all these beautiful colors. And you know, we've got little kid Mulan, which I thought was really interesting to see her kind of as a kid, because we didn't really get that in the cartoon. And so, you know, it for what it was, I think it was okay. It gave a good sort of backstory behind the whole aspect of the Phoenix. But yeah, dude, like going into it and being like, seeing those beautiful colors and those beautiful scenic landscapes near the beginning of the film, I was like, this is amazing. Like I literally was like, I lost for words, and I was like, this is going to be a phenomenal movie. But then visually, you're right. Like we get to a scene, specifically the one I want to call out is they get to the scene where they see the 4th Battalion or the 6th Battalion or whatever. They see the battalion that came before them that fought against Boring Khan, as I like to call him.
Yes.
And they see these, there are all these people dead, and they're walking on like a hill. And yeah, that is like the most green screen. Like I feel like we do better green screen in our videos than that was for a Disney movie. Well, we're going to, but for a Disney movie, that really, you're right. It did really take me out of it. And yeah, it's kind of unfortunate that you've got that sort of blend of like the best we saw was in the trailer. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's, how often is that the case with movies, unfortunately, but, well, now that we're on the negative train, why don't we keep going? Was there anything else that really... No, but why not? Was there anything else that sort of stood out that really that didn't win you over?
So yeah, I kind of was alluding to it. I thought there was something very interesting with the witch character being very symbolic to the direction of where Mulan could go. Because there's this, like I liked what I know we're talking about what we don't like, but the one element that I did like about the film is the theme of reflection. Obviously drawing that as a reference from the original song and the original movie, and bringing that in as more of a story element. The reflection becomes a very key thing in how she realizes who she really needs to be, as it was in the film, in the original animated film. But they play with a lot of it aesthetically, visually, like her walking into the great room where the emperor would have been when she confronts the witch that's sitting on the throne, and just the idea that the witch herself represents a very fragmented reflection of Mulan, like the path that she could go if she embraced her true power. And that seemed so interesting, and I thought, oh, that's really great. But then you get to that room, and you think that it's going to be some sort of epic battle between the two of them, which I would have liked to have seen, like a really epic battle, like part 2.
Yeah, that would have been dope.
No, she just ends up leading her to save the day and then dies. And I was just like...
In probably one of the most unbelievable death scenes, because you've got this woman who can turn into 1,000,000 bats, and one arrow... One arrow that's headed for Mulan. Like, I get it. Like, maybe it was going to hit Mulan, so, like, she had to save her. But, dude, like, don't just you're a witch. Find a way to get rid of that arrow. Like, you've got magic. And it honestly felt like such plot convenience to have that character die that way.
Yeah.
And just so that they could have that moment at the end, it rubbed me the wrong way.
So I thought that was, like, really underwhelming to introduce that character and have her really mean nothing. So it kind of sucked.
Well, now on that note, obviously they were trying to bring a little bit more, not entirely, but maybe ground the movie a bit more in realism in some aspects. And so that's why we didn't get a character like Mushu, a talking dragon from the cartoon. But was there anything that they did in terms of paying homage to the cartoon that you appreciated? Certain scenes, just like, the sword scene was just so well done.
Yeah.
Yes.
With the reflection in the sword. I thought the spin on the ancestors' characters was kind of a cute way of doing that, without making them, too over the top. Floating around ghosties or whatever, I just thought that was anything else that you guys noticed?
I think Cricket was a fun way to bring in that character, right, and have him as a human being and as part of the gang. And I gotta say, like, and I know, like, the music, I think, was one of those things that was people were really upset when that got announced, that this, they're not going to have I'll make a man out of you, or they're not going to have reflection or different things like that. But one of the cool things that I did really like that did pay homage to the original was just like the fact that, like, even though the exact songs weren't there, some of the dialogue from those songs did make it in certain ways. Like, we will make men out of every single one of you. Like Sergeant Kang kind of saying that was like, okay, yeah, that's obviously what that is. But even Donnie Yen, who honestly, I actually think Donnie Yen was my favorite part of the movie. I actually think he did a phenomenal job, and even from like an acting standpoint and everything. But he says, at one point he's giving a speech and he says, tranquil with the forest, but on fire within. And I was like, cool. Like they're pulling portions of dialogue from the original songs, that I think it just kind of helps to, again, as you say, pay homage and sort of look back.
It pays homage, but it also draws relevance to what that scene is meant to do. Right? Like,
yes.
Like, there's the one scene that they're all sitting around talking about the kind of woman that they want, right? And they're looking at the pictures, and he's talking about, oh, she has skin as white as milk and fingertips as soft as the root of a green onion. I was just like, wow, right? And so that to me, that harkens to that song, A Woman Worth Fighting For. But I am glad, though, that the climactic scene didn't involve those guys dressing up as women to sneak into the thing. Because, like, that would have been really funny if she's like, we're not going to show, the director was like, we're not going to show Mulan getting into an armor. But yes, we are going to show these guys dressed in drag helping Mulan get in.
I mean, I would have been okay. That would have been really cool.
But it would have been such a shift, right? Like, if they did do something like that.
Tonally, it would have been a bit off, maybe.
Yeah, because it's supposed to be war.
There were small nods to jokes and having fun, but the movie was a bit more serious overall, I think, right?
I gotta say, though, my favorite scene, like, as cheesy as it is, it just made me really love it, is when she looks at the sword after she is, like, resurrected, if you will, and she looks at her sword and she sees herself and she says truth, and then boom, they kick that reflection score in, and she's like taking her hair out and she's riding that horse like, I'm gonna go save the day. Like, I was just like, yeah, you go, girl.
Dude,
you go,
huge,
right? Like, it was perfect.
Yeah, Harry Gregson Williams, who did the score for this, like, honestly, so wonderful in the way that he was able to mix those musical themes, but like in an elegant way. Like, it wasn't overdone, and they brought everything in just at the right time, and it was cool. Like, if you do like the original music, like, a lot of it is in there. A lot of it is in there in the different themes, and when they're doing her makeup and things like that. Like, oh yeah,
it was a great scene.
They actually have the song, but technically it's just being played in the background. Like, I don't know. I think it's probably the right way, in my opinion, if you're not going to bring in back that original music, to do that original music.
Well, Nate, you mentioned earlier that your favorite performance was, I believe you said it was Donnie Yen.
Yes.
Was there any other performances that stood out in a positive way for you guys?
No.
I didn't mind Mulan. I actually didn't mind her.
I think she might have been my favorite. I thought she was really cool. I did like her portrayal.
I loved actually her scenes with her sister.
Yes,
and like, when she has the makeup on and she's walking and she's like, this is my scared face, this is my surprised face, and it's all just the same, right? And yeah, I think she was really great. Even like her getting dressed like, again, just to, like, I just think it was such a missed opportunity that they didn't take the opportunity of showing, obviously, her getting dolled up, prepared for this, the person, the matchmaker, and didn't juxtapose that with her getting in that armor. Like, to see the two sides of that coin of, like, what she's meant to be and what she's going to do. I just think that's such a missed opportunity. I would have liked to have seen that in that sort of cinematic world rather than her just suddenly being in it and then that was it. Right. It was like one of the biggest things.
And am I the only one? Like, she didn't convince me that she was a man. I don't. No. I just. That was clearly a woman the whole time. Kent. Yeah, I guess. Yeah. I guess, and so they just. Is the idea that they just would never believe a woman would have that courage or whatever to do that sort of thing. And
right.
So,
I think that's the idea.
You know, I guess I was just watching the whole time going, but that's a woman, you know? I don't know. I don't know. That
well, you know, that guy knew. That what was his name?
Hong Hui?
Yeah.
Are you talking about the guy that, like, falls in love with her?
Yeah. He was falling in love with her when he knew that he was a boy.
Yeah, sure. He was falling in love, but he was falling in love with who she was, right? Which goes beyond whether it was a girl or a boy. He was falling in love with the best parts of her.
I do think that, like, what was really powerful was when she does go back to the general and, you know, they all stand up for her, right? Because she was being made to believe that everyone was just going to leave her in the dust. No one was going to sacrifice himself for her. But they knew that she was probably their best hope at whatever they need, you know, achieving whatever they needed to.
It was a good moment. Yeah,
it was a good moment, and I think it really does. Again, the film does capture the nuances of what the original did in terms of those sort of elements. But a lot of people, like, did you guys find it as an issue? Like, she had chi, like she had this magical power, which a lot of people online are like equating to like the Force, right? And like that she has this power and. You know, she's been told to suppress it because she needs to be a woman and it won't be accepted if she's a woman with these powers and if she is so connected with her chi, people will think she's a witch. A lot of people have been saying, like, in the original movie, it was about this woman who just was doing what was right for her family. She had no power. She went to go earn that power. She went to go do what was right. So, you know, like, I thought about it after and I'm like, I like that there's an explanation as to at least why that fighting power exists, because you can't just pick that up. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like, because then it's like the Force. You know what I mean?
So I want to circle back to that. I just want to quickly, because it kind of flows into it. The moment when she has her first big fight with Hong Hui with they've got those spears.
The spears, yeah.
Oh my gosh! And she does that like back kick thing. It's incredible. And like you see like the commander like start to go after her, but then Donnie Yen's like, no, hold on. But she goes to have that conversation with Donnie Yen, and honestly, I think the reason that they did the whole chi thing was to accelerate the process of him, of them sort of discovering or questioning what's going on, right? Where he's sort of like, well, why don't you show your chi? Like, I know you have it, and any great, warrior man should show his chi, right? And I think that was honestly kind of not as... It's not a great way to really push the plot forward and make it speed up. As much as I enjoyed the pacing of the movie, I think to that point, Justin, I think it was a little bit handled a little clumsily that way. Kevin, I would just love to know your thoughts because I'm always intrigued by your salty takes. What did you think of Boring Khan, as I put it?
Maybe I missed it. I'm just still not even sure why he was bad necessarily. Like,
what was his?
He was so.
His father was killed by the emperor.
Oh,
right.
So
okay,
the emperor.
Great.
So he was claiming war on the emperor for killing his father.
Right. Okay.
Oh, jeez, great.
Okay. So I mean, was that like a throwaway line or something that I just
no? Once they attack the first like town, and the soldier that is the witch goes back to the temple to confront the emperor and let him know because one soldier survived. She's basically the exposition.
And maybe that dialogue, like maybe they were going for like, like you watch some sort of kung fu movies and there is sometimes that cheesy sort of expository dialogue. But most of that comes out of the fact that like that's just a crappy translation of actually maybe good dialogue in that moment that just doesn't work as well for Western audiences. So it's just like
and you wanted a dubbed Mulan? Come on.
Well,
man.
okay, come on. I mean, you're making me eat my own words here, but no, like I just think like the dialogue in a lot of the movie, and especially for the villains, was really poorly done, and that character was just. He just didn't feel, he wasn't scary to me. And like, give me something that I'm scared of. Give me something that is, you know, up there. Maybe not with like quite like with Thanos level, but like, I just want like, yeah, give me someone who's, when he's on screen, I'm scared for our main character.
You're nervous.
Yeah, and I never was for Mulan because she's got the Force.
That, or you go full blown cartoon and over the top and
Sure.
like just, you know, like channel the I mean, that's what makes the cartoons, not just Mulan, but so many of the Disney cartoons so iconic, is their scene stealing villains, and this guy was flat. He was flat in my opinion.
Yeah,
but I found that with a lot of the performances. You mentioned the performances were flat in a lot of instances. The dialogue was stiff and generic in a lot of instances. So
it does watch like they piece together. Things must not have worked, or they took things out to kind of make it work better, but it just looks like things are missing, and it just doesn't feel overly complete in certain aspects, and speeding things up so you can get to other things quicker.
There's just a scene where he walks out, he talks to the witch, he walks out on like the side of a hill, and he says like, we have to go over there or something, and then just walks away. Like, I was like, am I watching like a high school drama right now? Like, what am I watching?
Yeah, I know the villain was underwhelming, and which is why I was thinking that the witch was actually going to be the real villain, but then you know, they killed her, and then you were just left with boring Khan, and it was like, okay, well, this is very uneventful, right? Like that whole climactic scene, like the coolest part was seeing Jet Li use his own chi power to like round up those guys, right? And like then he got captured, and that was it.
Well, clearly we are very up and down on this one, so why don't we move into sort of our general consensus, our final thoughts, our final score. I know we've got Justin's, but we'll go over that again. Yeah. So Nate, why don't you sort of give us your, or just, you seem eager. So why don't we start with you on sort of a summary of your thoughts on the movie?
Yeah, I think that I'm just going to reiterate what I said at the beginning. I give this film definitely 6 out of 10. It didn't feel as complete. There were great things that do kind of call back to the original film that I generally appreciate. And I do like the attempt at trying to give like an underlining continuity to this idea of reflection and her really understanding her truth and what is bound her to her truth. But I think kind of like the other remakes, I kind of think of like Aladdin in the same sense. This felt kind of B-rated, not necessarily like a very scaled up cinematic interpretation of this movie. It does feel like it was tailored, and I get that now. Like, I understand now it is more for kids. It's not for the sort of adults. It is for the new generation, and I am glad that a film like this is made to kind of capture the culture in a more authentic manner that new kids today will be able to learn from and understand more. But at the same time, I do think that there was a little bit more of a, how would you say, appropriation to some of it versus actual like being authentic.
It was lacking in what was being touted as this big, step forward in cultural representation.
Absolutely. There you go. That's it.
Could see that
It definitely lacked what it was meant to really do. And that was that cultural representation. It felt like it lacked in some important areas with that. And I do think that it could have been a little bit more ingrained with some language. But I would like to see in the future, though, them take Pocahontas and try to do something like what they were trying to do with this. And really give a very nice sort of story to culture that might not necessarily get that much awareness of that. So, but yeah, cool. I give it a 6 out of 10.
Excellent shout there. Cool. Nate, your thoughts?
So, I mean, we talked about the cinematography, gorgeous in some moments, and then just due to the visuals and some of those green screen scenes just like really muddled. So very similar to the the reviews, I think. The score, I think, was knockout for me. I really enjoyed the score to the point where like I downloaded the whole thing and I've listened to it a few times. And I mean, Reflection is probably my favorite song of the
With Christina Aguilera?
of the Disney songs. Oh, Christina kills it. She's so good. And I also like the original one too. But
that gets Nate reaching for those tissues for sure.
Dude, oh yeah, it's just start tearing up, and I'm like, who am I inside? But I do think, like, again, the score and the way that the movie looks does, you know, start to work towards some of the darker themes brought forth by war in ancient China. The pacing is well done, actually, not lingering too long throughout the middle of the film. The only thing I'll say, though, is near the end of the film, it's certainly a rush. It's really a rush in its third act, right? It's just like, get this movie done.
Yeah.
I think Yifei Liu does Liu Yifei does a great job as Mulan. But I really, as I mentioned, enjoyed Donnie Yen's Commander Tung. He's the standout for me. The ensemble cast was charming. And they provided what they needed to do without getting in the way, which I actually really appreciated. They, you know, like if they had a Mushu in this movie, he probably would have gotten in the way. And so I was happy that they sort of fulfilled some of those fun, quirky moments with the ensemble cast. I just wish the enemy was developed and felt more menacing. Again, I didn't feel like he posed much of a threat at all. Overall, while I don't think it's a very high bar, and I said it at the beginning of this, I believe that it's the most competent of the Disney live-action remakes, which isn't saying too much. It does enough different to stand out alone on its own against the original, to the point where like I could have both of them side by side and choose, like, based on what mood I'm in, which one I'd prefer to watch. And that's something I would say about Disney's Aladdin as well, as the only other of the live action remakes that did that for me. Hopefully the success of this film will convince Disney, to your point, Justin, that this is a better way to recreate their classic lineup of films, where they can provide a respectful interpretation of their original classic stories while adding just enough so that older audiences and audiences that grew up with these characters can see them in new and exciting ways. And so I really hope that for the future of Disney live action. I don't think we're going to get that with The Little Mermaid, but to your point, Justin, if they did something like this and to even done better, maybe with better villains and acting, with Pocahontas, would be phenomenal. Now you've got that in my head, and if they don't make it, I'm going to be upset. But yeah, overall, I give Mulan a 7 out of 10, and I think most of that is the music.
Nice.
Yeah,
I think
Kevin,
I'm definitely going to side more towards Justin's score.
Yeah.
Because I don't know. This is one of my least favorite of the live action remakes.
Ooh. What would you put ahead of it? Just so I know.
Again, you're right in that it becomes its own movie more than a lot of the ones in the past have done. But I enjoyed Lion King more. I enjoyed Jungle Book more. I even enjoyed Beauty and the Beast more, and that was one I never ever wanted to watch because it just looked like such a cheesy musical, and obviously that worked more for that story than it would have in this context, and so I am glad that they strayed away from just going scene for scene, refilming all the songs, everything like that. This did not, to me, feel like a movie I would have been okay paying $20 for in the theaters. You know, like this felt like this was a Disney Plus movie on par with Lady and the Tramp, not a movie that was made for a full blown $200 million budget cinematic release. Right. It just did not feel like that.
It didn't feel like
from
that.
Start to finish. At moments it did. At moments it absolutely did. And I think there were some performances that were really, really enjoyable and thought provoking, and then others just felt really flat and stilted. Again, the dialogue was really a weak point, in my opinion, that sort of held the whole movie back. And you guys have both mentioned it, so I won't hammer it too hard, but what a lame, boring villain that could have been, you know, that villain isn't even going to scare kids, you know. We're asking a lot if we're going to be uncomfortable, but even the kids aren't going to be afraid of that guy, I don't think. And so that was a missed opportunity for what is essentially like the starting of a warlord here, starting, what should have been a really destructive campaign that, could have had millions of people in jeopardy, and he just didn't feel that threatening at all. So
it also softens her development, because the terror of that villain was not necessarily that terrifying. It's like, really, at the end of the day, she just had to own who she was, and that's obviously an important message, but it in no way did that threat kind of impact that. I don't know, it's just it's interesting to think about how a villain would play into some of our most iconic heroes as being very influential in their development. It's actually subtle. It's very, very non-influential to Mulan's development. Her development was all actually on her own. Really, it had nothing to do with this villain.
And I'm not sure how much of a fan I am of it being some special mystical force instead of heart, determination, and tenacity.
Yeah.
It was almost like she just had to unlock her special abilities and save the day instead of like digging down deep and doing the impossible. And like, I think Mulan in the cartoon comes out as a bigger hero than she did in this movie, for me at least.
Yeah, I agree.
So again, very hit or miss. I'd watch it again, but I wouldn't rush to see it again. And if we're talking about where they're going to go, they're going to deviate from the cartoon for a remake. They're saying Hercules they're going to do differently from the actual cartoon. So that's interesting.
Sure. I'm down.
That's interesting. But no, I'm going to give this 6.1 out of 10. So
you're just
especially
going one above me. Just 1 above.
No, but you can't give those round rookie scores, bro. Can't give those round rookie scores.
Oh.
Yeah, no, I just especially after Mulan was never like one of my favorites growing up. I just sort of it was how old I was at the time, what I was doing at the time. I was sort of moving away from Disney cartoons, and so rewatching it again a year or so ago in anticipation of this got me so amped for it, and I was like, it's such an underappreciated movie in the library of Disney cartoons from that 80s, 90s period, that this just was disappointing in light of that, I thought. So a little disappointing, to say the least.
Yeah. You mentioned watching it on, your TV and it feeling very Disney Plus oriented. Do you think you would have gotten that vibe in theater as well? Like it feeling very B? Or was it because you were watching it on TV and it's on Disney Plus? Does that in some way kind of influence that?
I mean, I don't know if the two movies are comparable at all, but we rented Bill and Ted a week or so ago, and that was a movie that I could have understood being on the big screen. I don't know, not as big a budget and everything like that, but I didn't feel like I was cheated out of a theater movie because I saw it on the TV.
Yeah. Okay.
But maybe this would have benefited from being on the big screen with bigger sounds and whatnot. I'm not sure, but I'm usually not that picky when it comes to that sort of idea.
Well, that's
I'm like the last to talk to about sound quality and picture quality and frame rate. You know what I mean? So I don't know.
Yeah. I asked because the reason why is because when I went and saw Aladdin in theaters, it stood out to me as being very B action and very kid friendly and stuff like that. But then when I watched it here, rewatched it on Disney Plus, I was just like, man, it does feel very made for TV, like the action scenes and the overly CGI versus the actual real aesthetical shots. And then I'm watching Mulan, I find myself in the same sort of thing, and I'm just wondering, like, is this just a style of how Disney is able to just quickly turn out these films where they mix a less percentage of actual on-location shooting with dynamic sort of CGI work? You know what I mean? Like, to really captivate, because they can do more in studio versus, spending a lot more and doing it on location and certain sort of things. So it just drew, because it felt very similar to sort of a formula that Aladdin had. So I'm wondering if they're going to get into this sort of situation, just like they did with their Disney animated movies, where it was just like a sort of turn by turn, like here's another one kind of system with these movies. If they're just going to basically try to figure out that formula for live action and do the same sort of process, where they can leverage more studio CGI versus on location. I know, not to deviate. It feels like it plays into the formula a little bit more too.
But Justin, sorry, I was just going to say, do you feel, Justin, though, that, like, what, are their kids growing up with these movies that are going to look back at them with the same reverence that, and I know like this sounds like, oh, I'm from the 90s and, you know, those are my movies. But like, are there kids that are legitimately going to look back at these Disney movies and be like, these are classics? Like, really? I don't think so, man. I don't think so. They're going to look back at Avengers, maybe. You know, they're going to look back.
I don't think Disney has hit it with these remakes yet in terms of that. You know, like I just think there's something missing there, and obviously this wasn't ever intended to be the kind of experiment it's been. In that they're taking this big studio budget movie and putting it onto their streaming service, but for the first entry into what could be the future of watching movies, it wasn't the best. The best effort, I don't think, in terms of
I liked it better than
Disney
Lady and the
Plus.
Tramp, but
yeah, I'm sure. I haven't seen that one yet. Just the reviews were too negative. They were in the 30s, and like that one just got pooped on.
It was campy,
like a walk in the park with a dog. Yeah, I'm sure. So. I don't know. It's. I think the future of filmmaking, even just from Disney as a studio on its own, it's going to be interesting to see if they sort of look at this experiment and this movie in particular and go, okay, we need to refocus and readjust what we're doing with these remakes, and because they've got 5 or 6 or 7 more in the works at different stages of development.
They'll keep doing them.
So
but that's what I mean. Like the fact that they're already pre-announcing a lot of these movies means that they have some sort of formulaic process to how they can churn out these movies with the CGI, and it's just a matter of just getting everyone there and shooting the scenes and doing what they need to do. Because like,
but that doesn't have to be a negative. Look at what they're doing with Marvel and doing 3 or 4 of them coming out a year, and
right. Absolutely.
And...
No, for sure. I'm not, and I don't mean like in this sort of the rapidness of it, but I mean like in that sense of how formulaic they feel. Do the seams start to show that this is just literally, there's less intention of actually trying to do something different, but just turn out a product, right? Like I feel like with at least the Marvel movies, you're right, they're fairly consistent with them, and they all feel different from one another because of their approach of who they get to make these movies and stuff like that. These, I think, like if you look at Aladdin and Mulan, I think aesthetically, yes, they're in different parts, but they could live in that same sort of DCU, if you want, Disney Cinematic Universe of
right.
where they all kind of live, right? So it'll be interesting to see what the approach they take with something like Little Mermaid, right? Like that's going to be overly CGI, right? So
it just sucks that this mentality of okay, let's just get another one of these out of here. Let's just get another one out. Has hit these live action movies so quick into these live action movies being a thing. I mean, we even started to see it with Star Wars, especially around Solo, where that started to become just get it out, and then they had to slow down. And Solo being not as good as Rogue One and everything, right? Everyone says that. So, but anyways, Kevin, let's get this podcast over with here. Let's go.
All right, folks. Well, there you have it. That is our take on Disney's most recent foray into the world of cartoon remakes. Have you seen Mulan? If not, why? If you have, what were your thoughts? Did it fail to meet your expectations when compared to the original cartoon? Or did the live-action remake capture your imagination in a whole new way? As always, please let us know your thoughts. Gentlemen, where can they do that?
They can reach us at wearegeekcentric@gmail.com. That's wearegeekcentric@gmail.com.
Oh,
and as always, if you enjoyed the episode and haven't yet, please be sure to subscribe to us wherever you like to listen to your podcasts. Throw some stars our way. We will forever be in your debt. We are Geekcentric, and you can be too, which means you can check us out on YouTube at youtube.com/geekcentric. Please help us out and make sure to recommend not just this podcast, but the YouTube channel to friends, family, and even strangers on the street, as long as you do it while safely social distancing. You can follow us on Twitter at GeekcentricYT, and follow us on Instagram at WeAreGeekcentric. And don't forget, you can also check out Nate's live gaming stream at twitch.tv/NatePlaysGames. Anything new to report there, Nate?
Oh yeah, so we probably are gonna be changing up the stream schedule a little bit. So keep an eye on my Instagram for that. Nate.playsgames on Instagram for any changes. Just because I am back to the day job now, so I am gonna be having to shift some things around. But don't worry, we're still gonna be streaming. In fact, we might be streaming a little bit more often. And of course, we're gonna bring you that Fall Guys content. We just got a new update with Fall Guys. Having a great time with that game. Having special guests on. I'd love to get Kevin on the show at some point. I'm sure we could figure that out.
Bring the censor along.
Yeah, yeah.
That is one of the sweariest games I've ever played in my life. Let me tell you.
Sounds great. Listen, I'll turn it into an 18+ cast. We'll be fine.
Nice.
But no, you know what? Coming up very soon. Look forward to some Super Mario 64 on stream with the remasters coming out on Nintendo Switch. So stoked for that. I've never played through those games in full. So playing through 64 for the first time. I've only ever played the first few levels. So it's gonna be a lot of fun. And I look forward to, if you are going to tune in and those games off by heart, please help me because I'm sure I'll get lost.
And, I think we're slowly but surely getting back to, some sense of, normalcy in the world. Obviously, we're a far way off from where we were just 6 months ago, but hopefully over the next few months, we can maybe get ourselves back into the Geekcentric studio and get some of our patented content back up and running. That would be lovely. I've got a pile of pops just screaming to be fun boxed, let me tell you. So that is definitely the dream there. But yeah, until then, just keep an eye out for us on social media, and we'll try and engage with you guys a bit more, and we'll certainly let you know if we've got anything in the works that's worth looking out for. But until then, Justin, Nate, thank you so much for joining me for today's episode. Until next time, as we always say,
love ya.
Stay home safe, guys.
Peace, y'all.